It's time to set the record queer. Walls continue to be optional. This is the part where you clap. How many of you got that reference to episode 0? Huh? Who's our longtime listeners?
I've listened to it, but I forgot.
Welcome, Awesome Games Done Quick 2019 to Setting the Record Queer Live. This is where you clap again.
So, quick show of hands. Who here has never listened to the show before? Few people. That's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Well, you know, this shouldn't be a hard thing to get into. This isn't like a deep cut podcast. This is Setting the Record Queer, a podcast where queer people talk about the pursuits and communities they love. Simple as that. All good?
Sounds
Great.
Good.
So, hi. My name's Alexis, and my pronouns are it, its, and she, her, and I'm two of your hosts.
My name's Kaylee, my pronouns are she, her, and I am your other host.
And we have a very special episode today. We have not one, not two, but 3 guests. That's like 3 times the normal number of guests we have. I'm so excited for this speedrunning roundtable discussion. So why don't we go down and you wonderful, wonderful people can introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm SeraphIV. I go by Seraph. My pronouns are they, them.
Hi, I'm Ariel. My pronouns are she or they.
Yeah, I'm Brossentia. My pronouns are he and him. Yeah. Make it easy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's get right in this. This is our speedrunning roundtable podcast. So we have 3 people, not only speedrunners, but every one of these people does like a bunch of stuff in the community. Actually, real quick diversion with someone walking in over there. I just want to give some shout outs to some of our podcast guests from the past who are here at this panel. So there's Xandra, and I think Scala Kitty is somewhere. There's Scala Kitty. Thank you both so much for being here. Y'all should go listen to those episodes. I believe episodes 1 and 6. Back to the present, though. We have 3 wonderful, wonderful guests. So why don't all of you quickly go through all of the things you do in the speedrunning community?
Outside of speedrunning itself, I do graphic design and layouts and layout programming for various speedrunners, streamers, and actually did the layouts for the Power Up with Pride, Winter Pride, and I will be doing Summer Pride as well for this coming year, this year.
Yeah. I also am part of Power Up with Pride. It's a gaming marathon that benefits LGBTQ charities. That's something that, I don't know, I have helped with a lot and that I care about pretty deeply. So, yeah. As well as also speedrunning, pretty mediocre speedrunner, but that's fine. It's fun to play games.
Games are good. Yeah. I've been I've been involved with GDQ since about 2011. I believe that's the first marathon that I've attended. I've helped volunteer. I've helped for a year or 2. I was part of staff there. It was a blast. I've also organized a blind bad video game tournament called Kusogrande. I help with the Big Bad Game-a-thon, which is a marathon just featuring bad video games. That's sort of my passion these days. Just the worse, the better, you know?
Hey, that's our mantra for this panel. I mean, what?
Wow.
Ouch.
Wow, rude.
I get why you invited Brossentia then, but why Ariel and I?
Wow.
Don't worry about it. So,
Getting heated.
let's quickly talk about each of your histories, both in speedrunning and in how you got into your larger projects. So, Seraph, why don't we start with you?
Geez, I don't even remember what year it was, but a buddy of mine who I played Guild Wars 2 with mentioned AGDQ, and I'd never even heard of speedrunning before. So I checked it out and immediately was just like blown away. A casual fan for a lot of years, went through a pretty rough period of depression and decided to check out some of the speedrunners I saw at the last marathon, one of which was Grand Pooh Bear. got really involved in his community and met a ton of cool people through them. That's actually how I met literally everyone at this table. Started speedrunning myself. Sent a message to Pooh one day because he mentioned that he needed some graphic design done, and I was like, I'll try. And yeah, my graphic design empire has sort of spread from there.
Let's see. So I think I originally heard about speedrunning from GDQ, as many people have, in like 2013, maybe even 2012. I think 2013 is about right. And yeah, I sort of like was on and off trying to pick up a speedrun for a while, and then I finally picked up Azure Striker Gunvolt, which I then did a run of at Power Up with Pride, and while I was working on that, just sort of was able to volunteer for some other positions and stuff, and I mean, now that's my main focus is Power Up with Pride, and the runs kind of come second these days, for better or for worse. I mean, I really appreciate the things that I've done, and honestly, I'm not really that great at games, so I'm like happy to make, but I love games, and I want to. I mean, I got into speedrunning mostly. I mean, like whenever I really started getting into it, which I guess was like 2017, May 2017. That was yeah, pretty interesting for me. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. There's so much competition otherwise, and it takes a lot of dedication to be able to, grind down good times. But I'm really excited to be able to help showcase queer speedrunners and queer positive speedrunners, and folks in general, and make a really nice thing by us, for us, featuring us, sort of, in a way. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And bro?
Once upon a time, back after I finished my bachelor's degree and, did what all millennials do, which is be unable to find a job, I ended up living at my sister's house, Essentia, and she's like, oh, while you're living here, this is how she talks, by the way. Oh, while you're living here, we're going to hold a speedrunning marathon here. It was the first year that SGDQ was going to happen, and I actually got to name it. So during that time, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I guess I'll be around here. And she said, you want to run something? I'm like, sure. It was a month before the marathon. I've never done a speed run before. And so I decided to, in that month, learn Mirror's Edge, which is dumb. You don't learn Mirror's Edge in a month. But then I did a run of it. It was kind of crap, but it was kind of fun, And after that, I really started to get into, especially the bad video games with PJ's Bad Game Exchange. I don't think it's going on these days, but that's where I got afflicted with Athena, and essentially life just spiraled down from there. Yeah, and it was a few years ago that I was sitting at home, and I'm like, it would be fun, because there were really no communities with bad video games. There were isolated streamers, but there really wasn't a hub for that. And I'm like, what would be fun is if I just made people play bad video games and laughed at them. And so on the spot, I think it was over the course of an hour, I just put together a sign-up sheet, sent it out, and then started the Bad Game Tournament because of that. And honestly, that's kind of my love right now, just being able to commentate and have people come together in the community to play bad video games.
Okay, so first, just a comment.
Yeah.
It took me like multiple years in the speedrunning community to realize that you were like, that your name had come from Essentia.
I know.
And I still feel kind of bad about that.
People
like, it
always
should have been
ask.
obvious.
People always ask, are you her husband? I'm like, no. Okay, like my username was completely something else, and everybody showed up for SGDQ. They're like, your username's dumb. Your Essentia's brother will call you Brossentia. Yeah, that.
It has a nice ring to it.
It works. It
How it
works.
goes sometimes.
Essentia is probably the first speedrunner who I can remember like the name of when I first started. And when I heard of Brossentia, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Essentia's brother. So not
Yeah, you
everyone
got it.
struggles with it.
got
Not
it.
everyone.
Hey.
Clearly, I did not.
Round of applause for a brain here.
Yeah. See,
Clearly, I did not have the mental fortitude to solve that puzzle. But bro, I'd like to hear just a little bit more about, like, you mentioned kind of the start of making people play bad video games. So from there, how did Kusogrande grow into what it is now?
Well, yeah, the first year, I don't know. I'm trying to remember because it feels like I was actually going through a phase of pretty bad depression at that time, and you know, I enjoyed doing that and having the tournament go on, but at the same time, it was just a lot of work, and I realized I can't do this by myself. So there were other people in the community who started watching, who were trying to boss me around. So I'm like, hey, you're now a volunteer. And so I get to boss you around now. No, seriously, Cadus is one of the examples that jumps out to me. People started trying to help schedule, and during this last tournament, we got people involved who helped choose the video games as well, which has been nice because now we've got like dozens of people looking into the crevices of history, trying to find these terrible games that nobody has heard of. And we've had some weird gems just pop up out of that, you know, things that have been forgotten but suddenly are back in the world again. It's something that I love. I absolutely enjoy it.
Crevices of history is a very evocative image. Thank you.
Yeah, wow, that's very true.
Is that going to be the title of Brosentia's autobiography?
Crevices of history. Also, I do have one for you later.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
Oh, yes.
Can we get a little preview, maybe?
Which system is it on?
It's on the Super Nintendo.
Okay.
It's actually, so it is slightly kind of queer related, actually, interestingly enough. So Mazinger Z was an anime, a Japanese anime from like the 80s, where I think one of the villains. So now, someone in the audience, Xandra's in the audience, and she really knows all about it, apparently. And so hopefully I'm not misrepresenting it, but I think one of the villains, like, and it's kind of problematic, but one of the villains is sort of, like, bi gender originally in the, like, story and stuff.
They're super valid.
Yeah, absolutely. Just sort of like, you know, it's very 80s Japanese style stuff. So my point is the gender politics could use work, but queer representation. So that's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
it's pretty bad.
Oh, good.
The game.
That's putting it lightly.
Not the representation. So yeah, I'll
Yeah, shoot me a link. I want to check it out.
we can push start to beginning later.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. So next we're going to move into, we have some, you know, all of you have done such like different things. We have some individual questions for each of you. So why don't we start with Seraph? So Seraph, you've mentioned that you're both a, you know, speedrunner and, you know, artist. So how do you balance spending your time on speedrunning and art, and especially like spending your streaming time on those two things?
So this is a really good question. I have a very complicated answer. It's that I don't.
Hey, that's funny. that's
Yeah,
Pretty relatable.
there's no balance. It's unfortunately, it's just when I have the energy to do one, I do one. I mean, it's not uncommon for streamers and queer people to struggle with depression. I struggle with depression and anxiety myself. And so I don't always have energy to stream. And even if I'm getting into a good like pattern of stream schedules, that can just be thrown off any day by a depressive episode or an anxiety attack. So I don't really balance it, to be honest. I just kind of, if I feel good on a day, I stream and I do whatever's at the top of mind. And that kind of affects the art business a little bit because it makes the queue last a really long time. But I'm upfront about that, and I just tell people that's sort of the cost of admission if you like my work, and if not, I like the art community on Twitch is very, very supportive of each other, and I happily send clients who need work immediately on to other other talented artists. As for people who want to see me speedrun, I laugh at them and say, "Well, there's VODs. You can check those out." I am.
Man, that's such a big mood.
I am planning to pick up Fez, and I always want to go back to 140. But the art's coming first these days, so it just kind of happens. The other thing that's nice, though, as a compromise to balancing these two, is something that I see a lot of streamers doing. Is I actually have a surprisingly active Discord for the size of my streaming community, and while they're not able to necessarily watch me stream what they may want to, I often talk to them about those topics in my Discord. We have some fairly active channels for speedrunning, for Magic the Gathering, for art, for music, all things that are very common discussion pieces on my channel. So I've been able to sort of fill in that gap with Discord.
Yeah, that's valid.
That's honestly, the do what you want schedule is not only super valid, but super relatable.
It's really hard to force yourself to do anything else when you are literally struggling to get out of bed some days. Like it's not super fun to talk about, but that's the reality of like living with depression, is that some days literally getting out of bed is the only thing you get done that day, and you have to take that as a win. And if when you've got the energy to stream, what you've got energy to stream is sketching a character you just came up with that has no relation to any other project, you just got to do it and hope that people enjoy it and that you have fun.
Absolutely. I real fast on that topic, I would also like to point out that I too am, since we have all discussed our suffering from depression, I also suffer from depression, and getting into speedrunning was also like a big thing to help me with that, just to like, because I don't know, I just sort of realized like in person, your local friend groups and internet friend groups had, morphed and shifted over the years, and I was finding myself feeling more and more isolated, and I wanted to get into something that more people were involved with. So I mean, honestly, as long as I'm interacting with people, that's a huge part of it for me. But then also to be able to like put a lot of meaning or something like that behind those interactions and whatnot, working on Power Up with Pride or some sort of thing. Sorry for just stealing your question, by the way. But
Oh no,
No, this
I mean,
is great.
to continue on this tangent, like Ariel and I met through speedrunning, and Ariel's one of my closest friends now, and like we get to see each other 2, maybe 3 times a year in person.
yeah.
But like that's a friendship I wouldn't have made any other way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see a lot of friends in the audience around and up here, and that's really valuable, and I hope that everyone can...
Hi, friend.
Hello.
hi.
Which one of
Hi,
us were
friends.
you talking to?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Hello, friends.
Hello.
Shout outs to
Hello.
all the friends in the audience.
I wanted to bounce off of a little bit of what Seraph said about doing your own thing, because I think that is very important for most of us here. There are some streamers who definitely jump onto their own game and stay on that game, and people come for the game because that game is popular and fun to watch. But luckily, we have the opportunity to as well build our own communities and find friends, and I think that relying, people who come and watch you drawing something that has nothing to do with anything at all and chat and laugh with you, those are the people who are going to be friends for your life, So even if you don't think it's going to be super popular, you'll still have people who care about you showing up.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And when you're streaming the way I am, that's one of the most invaluable things that Twitch provides to you. Like it's not something I don't stream to pay the bills. It's still a hobby for me, and it's not that I would never want to make a career out of Twitch. But as it is right now, that's not how I'm using Twitch, and I'm getting a ton of value out of it. Doing just like Bro said, where I get to focus on something that's fun for me, and I get to make friends who like to hang out with me while I do that.
Absolutely.
So, bro, let's talk a bit about Kusogrande and the difficulty of organizing everything. Now, To my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong on this statistic, Kusogrande 2 is coming up, and it has 156 people who have signed up.
Now it's over 200.
Never mind,
It's like
I was very under.
217, something like that. Yeah.
That is
It's
a large number.
of people. It's weird.
How do you manage organizing a crowd that size?
I let other people do it. Seriously, though, there are some people who have really wanted to put work into finding a way that makes sense to score matches. You know, last year we had a group stage, and it ended up having game masters organize matches for the people in those groups. So honestly, I couldn't do it by myself. There is no way, absolutely no way. So, you know, I let people know my schedule because I love to commentate pretty much every match that I can. And I think I was able to do every single match this last one. So hopefully I can keep on that. But yeah, having people who are willing to step up and help out has been fantastic. It means that it frees up quite a bit of my time. You know, we put together the general structure, but I trust the people who have been helping and given, I don't know, allowing them to do their thing and find ways to make it work has honestly probably been the best way to do it.
So to kind of bounce off of that a little bit, moving over to RAL, so you've done a whole lot of literally everything for marathons, for Power Up with Pride. This is the person who worked 22-hour days during Winter Pride.
It was
so,
like one 22-hour day.
Yeah, but the rest
There
were like
shouldn't
12
be
hours.
any
Yeah,
of
the other
those.
ones were definitely like 12 to 14-hour shifts, which is
But-
much different from a 22-hour day. But yeah.
But why don't you give us kind of a rundown of all of the different tasks you do, and maybe talk about, I don't know, which ones do you enjoy the most?
Let's see. So, I mean, so the first one that comes to mind is that I'm volunteering as photography here, which is something that I've done like a little tiny bit of, like just a little bit of event photography, but I'm like, I don't know, I'll give it a shot. But for Power Up with Pride, I mean, I've run games, I've done restreaming, I've done hosting, though honestly I've come to the realization recently that I'm not the best host. I'm just like really bad at like reading stuff sometimes. I don't know. But I mean, you know, I helped set up the like technical bits of the layouts. This time around we revamped a lot of our technical stuff.
Our tech stack basically was completely reinvented from our summer event to this past winter event.
Yeah, and
We needed all hands on deck, so RL got drafted into that.
yeah, and that was mostly just like you know, the work that needed to be done. The person who's doing the real work on that is Dorkmaster Fleck.
Shout out to Fleck right there in the crowd.
Who's real great
The
people.
real hero.
But
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Our Power Up with Pride techie boy.
Isn't that literally his role in the Discord? Just techie
Yeah,
boy?
Pretty much. Yeah.
I believe it's also on his Twitter bio. Yeah, so those things, and then yeah, like working on the processes that we will do those things for, doing social media, doing. Seraph made some really good graphics early on for social media, and then I was able to adapt those to make some of the other. So if you've seen like the Power Up with Pride, like, you know, announcement tweets and stuff like that.
Yeah, all of our promotional material initially was a design that I made for our announcement that we were gonna post the schedule.
No.
Or open submissions.
It was the announcement of when the thing was going to be, the dates for when the
Okay,
things
yes.
were going to be. So like I
And
made
then-
like the submissions one.
Yeah,
and some
Ariel
other-
was able to take that design and repurpose it and reimagine it for various different postings that had to be done on social media.
Yeah, and I mean I used to teach kids how to use Photoshop and Flash for a program that, you know, is local in my home city, and I also yeah, I don't know, I've just like tried a lot of different things, and so I have like a lot of
Ariel's neglecting to mention that they also were involved with scheduling, with wrangling volunteers, with planning meetings, with running meetings, with handling issues that popped up during the event, and probably 5 other things that I have happily erased from my memory because Ariel took care of it for me.
I mean, I probably also did because, well, I probably just didn't have the opportunity to remember it in the first place because I was just so tired. But, but we did great. So yeah,
over $30,000 raised over 2018 for the Trevor Project.
yeah,
so,
across 2 events. So
yeah, we're pretty proud of that one.
yeah, I think that's clappable.
Thank you.
That's a good
Thank
thing.
you.
That's a good thing to clap for. The Trevor Project is very cool.
Huge shout outs to the Trevor Project.
Yeah, yeah, and you know that's also like a lot of that is just like normal community building. You know, just like if you see somebody who's nice, make sure that they know that Power Up with Pride is a thing or something like that. Like, hey, we would love to have your run in this thing. If you support what we do, then that's great. So I mean, it's there's all sorts of stuff to do for sure, and I've definitely poked at a number of the things. But yeah, I mean, we're getting to the point where we need to start getting a lot more volunteers, I think. Yeah, we're
much slow.
We're working on that. It's part of it is that we completely overhauled the tech stack for Winter Pride, and because of that, we just didn't even entirely know how it was going to look. So we didn't really, have an idea. How do you type up directions for something that you haven't really done yet because you're not sure how what the gotchas are. So, yeah. So I will at least hopefully not be doing 22-hour shifts. Probably end up doing 1 anyway. But
Probably.
but yeah. Oh, and also I did a bunch of moderation stuff.
Yeah.
There's we have a pretty extensive, list of.
Power Up with Pride has the best ban list for terms on Twitch.
It's
real good.
Honestly, very good.
Does most of the work for us.
Yeah, it's
It's very long.
That's something that also helps us because if you use the moderation tools that are built into Twitch, it stops people from saying things in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's pretty invaluable, I think.
So
and I think that's
a lot of that.
I think that's something that's ended up in what has also helped our chat become a relatively comfy place.
Yeah.
For people to hang out, and that's giving people 3 or 4 days a year where they can have a comfy place on the internet and that they can just stop in and be excited with some people about some fun stuff that's.
Where else on Twitch are you gonna get the chant 17K elder is they? That Power Up with Pride, right?
Or 14K Pan May.
Right? So many good chants.
Yeah, when we got when it was announced on our stream that the character May from Night in the Woods is Pan. Mm-hmm.
That was a good run.
That was a good
so
good
good.
run. Yeah,
Very
and
comfy.
we had developer commentary for that and stuff. Yeah, we've had some good stuff in the past, and we're going to keep having some good stuff, I think.
I still had my worst run ever during a Power Up with Pride with Kid Cool.
Kid Cool,
it was
yeah.
so dumb. I hate that game so much.
Yeah.
That kid is so cool.
No, he's not.
Yeah, everybody was playing the heck out of Kid Cool. Was that last AGDQ or was it? No, it was the last AGDQ.
SGDQ Smartball had his run.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think it was Winter Pride 2017 that I had my run. What?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it took over an hour to beat, and then Smartball does it in 17 minutes or something like that. Yeah, don't play Kid Cool.
As our friend Tina would say, it's a very game.
It is a
very game.
A very game.
Yeah.
So, Seraph, not only are you a runner and graphic designer, but you also design games too.
I do.
Can you talk a bit about that and its relation to speedrunning? I know you speedrun at least one of your own games.
I do. That was. We'll start there because that was the funniest part of. That was this Summer Pride.
Yeah.
Yeah, Summer Pride 2018. So I previously held the world record in a game that I made with a friend of mine called Mobius Square, which is basically if you could mentally imagine a Rubik's Cube that crashed into a Tetris well, and then ended up as a flat square. That's sort of how that game works. There will probably be ways to find it if you're watching this later. So I previously held the world record at, I believe, 1 minute and some odd seconds, which, short game, but lots of RNG, so lots of resets. So I allotted for myself 15 minutes to run the game at Power Up with Pride. And I actually practiced, despite having developed the game and played it quite a bit. I practiced very heavily leading up to my run. And every practice session went really great. Every session I sat down to start a session, I was able to complete a run within 15 minutes, usually within 1 or 2 attempts. And, we figured, short game, more of a showcase, but there is a speed run for it. We'll be fine. Well, I tried to buy time for my co-commentator to explain some tech because I had set up a victory condition. And then while I was waiting for things to, progress through the story, my co-commentator, who was also the developer of the other developer of the game, while he was finishing explaining the mechanics, I noticed that this run wasn't going to work. And I tried to salvage it, and I was like, okay, we'll just kill this. So that's halfway through my 15-minute time slot. And I was like, that's okay, 7 minutes. I can still get a run in. I did not finish the run. I think I tried 3 more attempts and just got the worst RNG ever. So let me tell you, as a developer, even we hate RNG in our speedruns, okay? I tried, and it didn't work. That said...
Oh, go ahead.
That said, a couple people in the audience actually picked up the speed game right then, and since we had like a week-long competition after that, and we got the world record for easy mode down to 17 seconds.
Wow.
So that game is done. You can theoretically get a faster time, but you would have to grind so much for it that your eyes would start bleeding and your hands would fall off. Like, it's just not worth it.
Oh, fun.
You might want to fix that bug.
It's a feature. It's a feature.
So how would you say that your game development experience informs the way you speedrun, and your speedrunning experience informs the way that you develop games?
So I hadn't even done my first speed run when I started working on Mobius Square, but funnily enough, one of the huge influences for Mobius Square's visual style was 140, which is my speed game. So that was interesting that I picked it up after the fact, and there's that neat little connection. Since then, I am now working on a brand new game. It's not a puzzle game. It's actually a, oh gosh, let's see if I can remember, a Metroidvania Paper Mario mashup clone thing.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, I want to play it.
When can I play it?
Right now?
Right now?
Is it done?
Is it done?
Is it done?
It looks very impressive, I will say. What I've seen so far.
Thank you. There is footage of it available, and the hope is to have a playable prototype by the summer of this year. It will be very small and not nearly complete, but there should be a full level that you can get through and experience some of the gameplay mechanics and fight and platform and do all the things. But this game specifically, I am definitely trying to make sure that it's speedrunner friendly. I'm having a bunch of speedrunners look at it, and I'm taking feedback about things that are fun from a speedrunner perspective, things that aren't. I want to include lots of movement options for the overworld, and the combat is all supposed to be in a way where there's as little RNG as possible, and there are definitely going to be optimal strats for each combat to get through it as quick as possible. The very first demo I made was actually, if you've ever used Visual Studio, it's like the easiest thing to get started in for software development for an actual computer, not for a website or anything. They have what are called win forms, and they literally just look like really basic applications, and I made a combat simulator in win forms. And it just takes you through 3 fights. The first fight is 1 enemy, the second fight's 2, and the third fight is 3. And they just randomly generate stats for you to fight these folks with. And I think I was able to get like the first run through in like 5 minutes, and I got that down to like 20 seconds per fight. So 1 minute overall. So I am definitely trying to include speed tech in both the movement and the combat.
Will you be putting an in-game timer in?
Is that something that the speed community likes in games? That's
If
not
it
something I've
pauses
ever heard of.
during loads,
That's actually something that I'm very spoiled with 140 is that we have a very robust Unity. Not robust isn't the right word. A talented Unity developer in the community who made a patch for it that includes in-game timers that takes loads out and has an auto splitter. So I'm hoping to talk with him and have both of those things.
Oh, I like
present
that.
Since my project is also being done in Unity, which is a game development engine. If you've never heard of it,
If I remember correctly, Mobius Square has an in-game timer.
it does. It's real good.
Yeah, I was going to say that was one of the best things about running Mobius Square is that it has an in-game timer.
It's clearly the amazing animations when you get combos and doubles because it's in Comic Sans with multiple exclamation marks and a very, very gaudy rainbow gradient. And it just says, double combo.
Okay, I like that.
And that
You're
sounds
right.
amazing.
Yeah,
but after that, it's the in-game timer.
I see sounds like I haven't watched you run it. So, despite all of what all of you do, you all come back to speedrunning. What keeps you coming back to speedrunning at the end of the day?
What keeps me coming back to speedrunning?
You feel like you're stuck with it is an okay answer. We won't be mad.
I love games.
I think it's a way for me to keep experiencing the games that I love and finding new ways to experience games that I'm just starting to love. Like I discover so many new games through GDQ. I've fallen into the pit of SMB ROM hacks, and like speedrunners sure love those. So I'm just discovering a new SMB ROM hack, which is just showing off the craziest tricks you can imagine in Mario. Like every week there's a new one that at least one new one that like all the streamers I'm watching are playing. And it's just constantly a new spin on something that I've loved since I was like 5.
Absolutely. I mean, excuse me. I mean, I remember being little and I don't know. I mean, around like 7th or 8th grade or so, I was playing a lot of different Mega Man games, and I mean that's what I speedrun now. But you know, I would it'd be like a Saturday or something like that, and we're like, I'm gonna play through Mega Man X today, or something like that. So I just like get up and play through the entire game in a sitting, and this is the next level of that. And also, I mean, like games are really fun. I don't know. There's that. Oh, and so it's weird because like a really huge influencing factor for my like appreciation of a lot of video games is, I mean, like I started playing multiplayer stuff online, like PC multiplayer, Team Fortress Classic, et cetera, whenever I was like about like 9 or 10. And so there's almost like this guttural, or not guttural, it's like instinctive feeling that I feel whenever I'm playing like a multiplayer game with other people. I don't know, it's just sort of like slightly more exciting for some reason. And I've realized that speedrunning is a really interesting way to like almost retrofit that feeling into single player games, and that makes it really exciting because especially as somebody who used to shoot competitively back in the day, I really enjoy the idea of like competitions of like what can everybody do, like how well can everybody perform in this thing right now, but your performance doesn't necessarily depend on other people, whereas like, you know, a lot of online games are highly competitive against other humans, and this is you in the game, and you can practice it on your own all you want off stream or whatever, and you can play it on stream and have fun with your friends and, you know, react and play it up and the whole thing and just have a good time. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
You bring up a really good point. How many people in the crowd have ever done a speed run?
Most of them.
That's a lot.
Those of you who don't, pick up your first game because there is not much that feels better than getting your first PB.
Yeah.
getting a PB, like getting your first run is really cool, but getting your first PB and seeing the improvement is like, it's addicting. Like it's just you're like, oh, but I did so many bad things in that run. Like I could easily just do that again and again
Without that.
and again and again and oh. I guess I'm 31 now. Cool.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Bro?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So I was thinking of an example specifically that represents why I come back to speedrunning. I do a lot of new games or games that like nobody plays or generally something that doesn't have a speedrun out there. And part of it I like. I like doing the routing, but a big part of it is that every once in a while I stumble across a game that just has some strange amount of charm to it. And being able to put together a speedrun is often a chance to revisit that charm over and over again. Town with No Name, for example, is the dumb example that stands out to me because it's a point and click that's drawn in MS Paint as far as we can tell. That's a Western done by British people, which makes it even better. But the actual speedrun itself is about 1 second long. So I just put together this cutscene percent, or best cutscene percent is what I said, because not all the cutscenes are worth going to, and just created my own route in order to show the game off to people. And it keeps popping up every once in a while because it's a chance to revisit it and have all of those laughs. And it's not a serious category at all. It's just something for us to have fun. I'm not going to speedrun something that's out there just because it exists. It's because it has some sort of charm that I want to share with other people.
Cool. Thank you all for those really, really interesting insights. I love that question. I ask it to people all the time, especially at events like this. I've never gotten the same answer twice. Everyone...
You can finish, but I have something to add.
I was just going to say, everyone has something unique for speedrunning. Okay, go.
Absolutely, they sure do. Speaking of unique speedruns, if you are looking to get a PB, I believe that there is a game called Pringles in the and
Why are you here? Play Pringles.
RAL has been removed from the panel.
Yeah, you can probably beat it in 10 minutes, and that's been a lot of people's first speedrun. I was like, and again, even like Seraph was saying, like getting a new PB is a really exciting feeling sometimes. I mean, I was practicing it. I had an unrecorded practice room PB earlier today of Pringles while I was passing time before my photography shifts.
It's like a double meme.
Yeah, but what's great about that as well is that you don't have to devote the rest of your life to Pringles,
Yeah,
you can just
you
devote
do.
like a few days to it, get a good PB, be like, hey, I'm in there, okay? I'm like 3/4 of the way up on the speedrun list. I am awesome. And then just abandon it forever.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've had our nice big long-form discussion. Let's bring things down a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit of like a lightning round of couple fun questions here. So these are going to be like, give us like 1-sentence answers, maybe even one word. Okay, so first, what is the theme song of the speedrunning community, and why is it Africa?
Okay, Africa had its time to shine. I'm going to represent my boy Grand Pooh Bear, Return of the Mac.
Ooh. I really like Return of the Mac. I'm not sure why Africa. I mean, I don't know.
Lightning round, all right.
In a
Lightning
way,
round.
it is going to take a lot to drag me away from Pringles. So.
I am the wind. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What is the speedrunning community's mascot?
Pringles.
No. What? Notes are hard to read. What speedrunner is the community's mascot? Who is the mascot?
Oh, I misunderstood that question when we wrote it.
Oops.
Brossentia.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Not all of it, no. just a splinter community, okay? We're like the weird group that created our own city and we wear funny hats,
That's good enough community for me, really. I mean.
All right, and final, what's your favorite GDQ meme?
Orb.
Okay, this is complicated because I really liked original orb, but there's a lot of orb going on.
It's
And,
evolving.
I mean, the orb is evolving. It is perhaps. I mean, I'm literally over here mashing B though. Like, I like the orb how it was, but that's just me. That's just I don't know, but I do think Waluigi's Wah is pretty good. So.
Ariel has been removed from the panel.
Ariel,
All
that's,
right.
that's 2 bands now?
Extremely popular opinions up here.
I would say people donating things as if they're reacting seriously to what is happening during speedruns.
That's a good one. I wouldn't even have thought of that, but yeah, no, those are the best.
Yeah.
Also, I lied. Greetings from Germany is definitely my favorite meme, now that I think of it. Greetings from Germany.
No love for Eat the Voice.
For the what?
For Eat the Voice.
Or
Sorry.
All right. So a couple final questions before we move into listener questions. And let's answer these fairly quickly. But what is being queer in the speedrunning community like?
You said quickly. This is very. Start with that one. Geez. I came out because of the queer speedrunning community. I didn't even know who or what I was really until the first Power Up with Pride that I was involved in, which was Winter Pride last year. 2 years ago now. Winter Pride 17. And I just felt really comfy and at home, and was talking to some people about non-binary and genderqueer identities, and I was like, that sounds familiar, and did some reading and talked with Ariel a lot, and I kind of said, I think this is who I am, and I came out to a bunch of people in the speedrunning community first. Actually, the first 2 people are here, Ariel and Tormod in the back. Y'all really helped me be who I am. So what's it like being queer in the speedrunning community? It's like being me for the first time.
Uh-uh. Mine is less touching, but still nice, I would like to think. It's cool to, get to meet a lot of queer folks and be able to, bond over something in common. But, I mean, I don't know, it's... I would say it's pretty interesting. There are... it's weird, because, I'm going to go ahead and address the elephant in the room, which is GDQ chat and Twitch chat in general can be real problematic. So, you have that, but you also have, extremely strong interactions with a lot of other people in the space, and it's really nice to, I think that... started talking a lot. Which what was the question exactly again? I'm making sure that
You are answering the question.
okay.
Yeah, we just want your
what is it
thoughts
like
on,
to- yeah, that's right.
being a queer speedrunner, streaming as queer, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, streaming as queer can be a little bit frustrating at times, just because of the nature of things. But coming to these events and stuff like that, almost nobody at physically present at these events and stuff like that are the people who say those sorts of mean things on Twitch chat, and that's also really good. Honestly, in general, I'd say that speedrunners are a generally very accepting bunch, and I really appreciate that. I don't know, maybe I've just been hanging out with the right people, but it's honestly been pretty cool.
Yeah, so fun story. Honestly, I really came out before I got involved with speedrunning.
Same.
And I was initially a large part of the furry community, but then I mostly disappeared because drama. Honestly, yeah, if you want drama, go there.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm still sort of part of it, but speedrunning became something that I started doing quite a bit when I met my current husband, who's in the back over there. And he supported me throughout it. And as I interacted with people online, it was something that I would talk about if it came up. But honestly, it was, something that was just a part of me. And everybody who watched was just like, okay, that's who you are. You're gay. And especially lately, I know he's been getting a lot more involved with streams, mostly coming and harassing me and like dangling Xena in front of me. And I'm not lying about that one either. And it's just been nice to actually be able to embrace sort of the childishness that comes with speedrunning and the fun that can be there. And the fact that our relationship can revolve a lot around that hobby, the fun, the childishness that comes with it.
As an engaged speedrunning couple over here, we agree. This panel isn't about us, though. It's about these wonderful people, but also about y'all. So now it is your turn. If you have any questions for our wonderful guests, you can come up, get up in front of this microphone over here, and we would love to hear what y'all have to ask. Woo. Got a couple people meandering on down. Number one, let's go.
Hey,
Oh, hey, it's the Speedruns Rochester
it
friends.
is.
Hi, Cube.
Hi, Cube.
Hey, this should be a quick question, but what's your favorite example of queer representation in video games?
Is this for all of us or just the
It's
guests?
for everyone. Yeah.
14K Pan May.
14K Pan May.
I like 6-0.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of any gay characters or any LGBT characters. What should I say?
15K Pan May.
Okay, that one.
Yeah.
We'll go
All
with
right.
that.
I'll go with something that Ariel taught me, which has stuck with me, is that canonically in Azure Striker Gunvolt, what's his name? Zonda? Zonda in the original Japanese release was bigender, and I thought that's really cool because that's a definitely an underrepresented form of queerness, and it was cool that was in the game.
Yeah, it was interesting how that happened with that game. It was like, because even like the newer, they specifically address, they're like, Zonda is a bigender adept who uses, or Zonda is a bigender adept, like Z blah 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 blah. And I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's in a video game that you can buy on the Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah,
like,
Zonda specifically had pronouns
From the
that
eShop.
were not, traditional. So that was really cool.
So that was really neat. And I really like Zonda, even though Zonda's character is kind of a problematic
Hella
caricature.
problematic.
I still really like Zonda just because, like, and it's I think that's something that at least I've found in a lot of games and a lot of just media in general is that the representation is often very villain focused and stuff like that, just because of a lot of different things that just a lot of different circumstances in society. But
Well,
yeah.
I think that it's okay to love something and still be able to be critical of it.
Yeah.
Critical
absolutely.
reflexivity. You gotta be reflexively critical of the things you love.
Oh,
because
yeah.
everything needs to be, taken with a grain of salt.
Yes.
After conferring with Hex, I have another answer because apparently Vivian from Paper Mario, who was
I
trans.
was gonna say her.
Yeah.
Best girl.
Oh man, yeah.
That's a 2-for-1 deal right there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cube.
Yeah. All right. We'd love to talk more. Let's move on in the interest of time. Hello.
Hi there. So my question is kind of for somebody else. My boyfriend Teddy just came out as trans, and he wants to get into streaming, but he's kind of uncomfortable. Ariel, you brought up the problems of Twitch chat and things like that, and he's worried about just interacting as a new streamer with Twitch chat and what to deal with that. So what advice could you give him?
So I would say just as a new streamer, you honestly won't probably get that much attention just because people won't know you're there. Make sure to have a friend or a partner, someone you trust in chat and mod them, let them take care of any unpleasantness, although I doubt you'll see anything in early streams with only your friends watching.
You can also reach out to the Power Up Pride community, make some friends there. We love to help mod each other. Most of us have swords in each other's channels or are willing to give out a sword as soon as it's required. And if there's a community that your partner's interested in that over intersects with any of the runners in that community, I'm sure they'll be more than willing to lend a view, and B, more than willing to help keep your partner safe.
You basically said what I was going to say. Yeah, this is the sort of general advice we like to give to new streamers. Hang out in other streams. Hang out with other people, and they'll come to you. With like harassment and stuff, it's sort of, with the way it affects you, it's kind of an issue of volume. If you have 10 viewers and get 1 troll per stream, that's not going to feel as pressing as 2 viewers and 1 troll per stream. So go out there and make friends in the community, and then those little small annoying dummies who get purged in like 1 second won't feel as frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, someday, I don't know, I definitely do think of it as someday it will happen, though, and at that point, it's just like, remember, a lot of these people are out there they just want to get a rise out of people. I mean, like, to some degree, it is, you just gotta aggressively ban folks, and, I mean, zero tolerance policy sort of...
Ban early, ban often.
Yeah.
Don't let them test the rules.
Yeah. I mean... Yeah, it's a dicey situation overall because, it's sometimes you can potentially have a false positive, but if anybody ever tells you that they're a false positive, that's usually a bad sign, though. So that's also something to keep in mind is if you ban somebody and they're like, "Why'd you ban me?"
Yeah.
Probably not
Don't let them argue their way back in
Yeah.
because they're testing limits.
Yeah.
What's also nice about having moderators in there is that usually they can take care of it. Honestly, I'd say if they're streaming, go ahead and just ignore what negative things are said in chat. Honestly, if they get a reaction, that's usually going to be a lot more pressing and encouraging than if they don't get any reaction at all. Now, there are certain cases where that's not true, but in general, that's going to be, I think, the best way to handle that.
Yeah, classic advice, don't feed the trolls.
Yeah. And it's hard because, I don't know, I wish that there was something more that I could say other than just don't feed the trolls, because that still indicates a huge problem.
It is.
But I don't know. I mean, the more people who do get out there, the more representation we have, and the more people do get to see, people who are different, and it can be. Oh, I just thought of. Be wary of the LGBTQIA community /tag on Twitch. It can be good, but also there are some people who will just go to there and just start clicking on things and start messing with people. Like
I didn't think of that.
Twitch.
Oh, yeah, it's a
Twitch.
thing.
Twitch is extremely. Twitch has a very good setup to help people find streams that they do like. But it also means that they can just, go find some, a group of people to pick on, and it can be bad. But, just don't accept that behavior, and we all need to stop accepting that behavior as a community. And, stronger moderation in general, because, in a lot of bigger streams and stuff like that, sometimes there is much more lax moderation, and that's where a lot of these really problematic memes and stuff like that go to sort of grow, and then they leak out into everybody else's business, and it's not great. So
I think one of the biggest points of satisfaction is when somebody posts something they're banned and nothing is said about it in chat.
Absolutely.
And nothing appears on stream because that makes them so mad.
Yeah. If you're in somebody else's chat, so this is, and I'm sorry we're really belaboring this point, but also this is really important, and probably a lot of you have this thought. So, not only in the room but also like listening. If a big thing is be around in other people's Twitch chats and see how it's handled there. Usually the best thing is to, again, just not mention it at all. You know, sometimes like, I don't know, I get frustrated with it and I'll be like, oh, somebody thinks he's a tough guy, huh? You know, but like, the best thing to do is to ignore it and just pretend it didn't happen because, I mean, at that point you're literally deplatforming them. And that includes if you are a chatter. So in general, to everyone out here, if you're a chatter and somebody comes in and says something rude, you know, if you're a mod, delete it. And if you're not a mod,
say nothing.
Don't draw attention to it. Don't feed them, it sucks.
In the interest of time, we need to...
Yeah, sorry about that.
That was really important, though.
Yes.
Deplatforming works. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Let's try and get through a couple more pretty quickly.
Yes.
Hi, I've got 2 questions. So the first one's for Brossentia. I'm actually legitimately excited for the next Kusogrande.
Okay.
So other than the games that were in Awful Block this year, do you have any suggestions for games that I can play to get in the Kusogrande mood?
I would say there are tons and tons of terrible games, especially on popular consoles, NES, Super Nintendo. I'd say go play Macaulay Culkin video games. Like, that's not actually a lie, okay? That, honestly, go and comb through some videos. You know, even if you don't particularly like his language, depending on who you are. And, you know, AVGN is a good source and pretty hilarious as well. And there are plenty of other places to just enjoy terrible games. So that's honestly probably the place that I started looking for games, you know, YouTube videos and AVGN, and then branched out from there, you know. You know, study the classics.
And my second question's for everyone. Considering everyone's favorite new GDQ meme is, would anyone consider running Orb 3D for Awful Block next year?
Absolutely.
No.
I will do this myself
No.
if no one else is willing to.
No. No, you won't. No.
I probably
Thank you.
won't. Thank you for your question.
I hate that game so much.
Hi, hello.
I've already played it.
I'm Denny, he, him. I am a smaller stream. Ooh, I'm leaning too close to the microphone. I am leaning too close to the microphone, and I'm a smaller streamer, and I'm making a go of content production, specifically entertainment and some charity and comedy content production as like a real push for full time. Don't worry, I have a backup job as a truck driver. We'll be okay no matter what. As a cishet person, is there a way I could make sure that people do feel safe and comfortable laughing in a stream or a community that I'm organizing?
So the big thing is talk to queer people. Be open to listening, be open to taking feedback, even and especially if it's not positive feedback. So we've been out for 3 or 4 years now or something. We're still learning things every day. And especially if you're not directly experiencing everything, that learning curve is long. So you need to listen. You need to reach out for feedback. And you need to be open, especially to criticism.
It also sounds like you're already doing some of these things, but make sure to, you know, put pronouns in your bio. Make sure to explicitly have rules banning these behaviors. Make sure to, you know, normalize queer identities wherever it's relevant and wherever you can, and you should be good if you're listening to your community members and other queer people.
Another really good step is to just have a queer mod. They know things that you don't. They can tell you when they have to enforce something. And they catch the stuff that you're just not capable of because you just haven't experienced it yet.
Absolutely. Some of the people who I'm most excited are just like around are mods of big streamers who are queer. I mean, just like it's just good to know that, this, I can't even name them because, it's like, I don't want to call people out specifically, but it's, yeah, very, very good to know that there are big streamers out there who are also getting that sort of feedback. And I mean, but if you are a big streamer and you're listening to this and you don't get a lot of feedback about queer stuff, I don't know, maybe it would be worth looking into at some point, because it's just, that's the number one thing, is talk to queer people. And yeah, the other thing is, if you specifically like no harassment is like an okay rule, like no transphobia or homophobia is a pretty good rule.
And then no misgendering or dead naming is an even better rule.
Exactly.
Like those
I'd have to make the rules
specifics
pretty
are a
specific.
shield.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think for me, the biggest thing when I'm streaming that helps me know that I can trust somebody is when they ask how my husband is doing. It's such a simple question, but it takes a step further from tolerance to actually interest in my life and interest in the people I love. So it's something that's very small, I think, that still, I think, carries a lot of weight. It makes me think, I can trust you, because you're generally, you are genuinely, not generally, genuinely invested in who I am.
Absolutely.
That's all excellent advice. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Thank
question.
you.
Cool. And looks like we've got one more.
Hey, everybody. All right, so having met Brossentia at the first Summer Games,
Yeah.
At the time we met him, I did not know he was gay or furry or ex-woman, all that stuff there. It all came out during the week time, but obviously you met him first, you saw his personality first, and you saw how he was. You learned that about him, the person, before you saw, the insides and all the details that he was afraid to tell you, perhaps, at the time, because he was living in his sister's house, and nobody came to see him. They came to see Sentia. I was like, oh, Sentia, how you doing? We're going to speedrun your house. Oh, hi, bro. What's up? So,
Yes.
but in that regard, like, moving on, like, learning those things and how you present that to other people, like, I don't, like, goes like, oh, by the way, he's all these things. It's like, I just like casually, oh, no, he's a furry gay male, he's married to his husband. So how important is, like not reacting to trolls in the same way as chat, how important is it to just normalize your reactions to explaining how people are, what they're into, their pronouns and such? Like, how even on my Twitter, obviously, similar to our last questionnaire, white male, CIS, but I put he and him on there and say, hey, tell me what you got, I'll follow it. Like, it's important to me. So normalizing, how important is that to have the normalizing and not like making a big grandstand display of it and just make it so casually normal? Is that important?
So important. Oh my God, so important. Honestly, people who get like uncomfortably excited about you being queer are almost as bad as people who don't like you being queer. Like it is something that's normal, and it should be treated as such.
I didn't know Brossentia was gay for a long time.
Yeah,
Oh,
me
really?
either. I didn't know.
Sorry, I'm
there was a-
stealthy.
There was a paste bin that you posted.
Yeah.
I think this year even maybe, if not last year, and that was when I found out.
I think it was last year, yeah. Yeah, and I know the paste bin you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, I don't know. I just live my life, and when things come up, I just talk about it normally, And also, like, I was able to make 4chan like me for a little bit, which is very hard for the LGBT community. Oh, it's so hard. But yeah, it's like, just being who I am and being able to joke with people, being able to be humorous and, laugh, even if something odd comes up, just figuring out a way to laugh is something that has made me, I think, able to relate a little bit more to people. So, it's not all about me. Or not everything that I do is about being LGBT. It's one of many facets in my life. And people are going to see it, but oftentimes there's a whole lot more going on in my life that is even more interesting than the fact that I'm gay.
Yeah.
Sorry, sometimes it's not that interesting.
Yeah, if it's cool to piggyback off.
Sure,
that,
go.
I care very deeply about being queer, but I mostly want for people to see me as a good person first, and that's a pretty important thing. And as far as normalizing is concerned, I mean, just like, yeah, I don't know, people have different lives. Like some people, like I don't want to have kids, so like in a way, almost like Power Up with Pride is like a thing that I put a lot of that energy into, and like realizing that, sometimes like helping a community and helping, younger folks and older folks who are queer, find some friends the same way that I have in speedrunning. That's, what it's really all about, I guess, to some degree. And normalizing people's different experiences out there is a major part of that. Just to like, I don't know, just think about how other people's lives are, Like, I think about that a lot, so, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for your question.
Yes, thank you so much.
So we are here at our last bit of the podcast. For those who have listened before, you will recognize this part as Kaylee's question of the week. Each week I ask a very normal question that is just like, I don't know why it's separated from the other questions. Frankly, it seems pretty normal. Anyway, for this week, so if you could learn one speedrun trick in real life, which would you pick?
Iceless.
I
so
too
bad
hate
at it.
being cold.
What's that?
I too hate being cold.
I don't mind being cold. I just want to be able to run X1 100% very well, and I'm
In real
bad
life?
at that.
Well, invincibility glitches, you gotta go for that. Then you can jump off buildings and you're awesome.
Y'all are thinking way too low scale. I'm going out of bounds.
yeah, I was thinking out of bounds would also be real good.
Nah.
But even better than that, wrong warps to places that you know. That's just teleportation. Like that's a superpower.
Okay, well, Darkman is glaring at us, so I think that's all the time we have for. So thank you all so much for. There we go. Thank you all so much for coming out here to listen to this, the first ever live episode of Setting the Record Queer. Feel free to take a look at the PowerPoint to your left and find the contact information for all of these wonderful people. Feel free to take a listen to our podcast if you never have before, settingtherecordqueer.com or whatever your favorite podcast platform is. Also, I have a big stack of business cards. Feel free to come take one. I spent a bunch of money on them. Please come take one. The theme song you heard and are about to hear again, it was made by Thrill Me Music, and our logo was made by Cubotic Arts. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.